Go ahead.
Welcome, Toastmasters and honored guests. This meeting of online presenters is beginning officially right now. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of the club, you must be a current or a former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmaster official speeches. If you have substantial presentation experience, you can apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered right here in our club. Our requests for membership are subject to approval by our members. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure that it shows your name and any role for tonight's meeting if you are playing one. Simply right-click on your face and go down to rename in order to do that. We have members and guests from all over the world, and thus as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of your language and word usage so that you won't be offensive or insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note we are recording this meeting and that your video and audio will contribute to the club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. And without further ado, we will welcome to the virtual stage DTM Andy Burns, our VP of Education. Over to you, Andy.
Okay, during this meeting, we have 3 speakers, and our first speaker, I do not have his introduction, so I'll ask Graham to do his own introduction that will not be timed. And my understanding is that you'll be speaking for 13 minutes. Is that correct?
Roughly, I've got 3 minutes before I've asked for 3 minutes before my podcast segment and then 3 minutes after my podcast segment. So if we can do 2, 2.5, and 3 for the intro, 2, 2.5, 3 for the conclusion and the podcast bit in the middle. And it'll probably take about 8.5 minutes.
8.5 minutes for the podcast.
Call it up to 10, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I think Carolina has my introduction. I hope she does. I've put it on the blog, on the agenda.
Okay. Carolina, do you want to do the introduction for Graham? He's our first speaker.
Yes, sure. But first, I'd like to introduce the theme of the meeting.
Yes.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. I remember our last meeting during the contest when Lou asked me how online presenters had changed my life. I haven't been part of this club for a long time, but I've been a Toastmaster here in Chile for several years. And that question, many things came to my mind. I used to be very shy, and I think now I'm the opposite. Toastmasters have improved my life as a professional, my social life, and even my love life. For me, there is a before and after Toastmasters, and this organization continue adding to my value to my life. That's what I want to talk today about how is to be a Toastmaster, because now we can have online meetings. We have so many opportunities to share some experiences and learn so many things with different people around the world. And you have my own example. I live in Chile and I can be part of an advanced club in the US, and that's amazing. And do I have time to present the functionaries, the team that will be helping me?
Yes.
Yes, right?
Yes.
Great. We have to start the meeting. We have a special section, the tip of the day. And Pamela Benjamin prepared something for us. Help me welcome Pamela.
Thank you. We've been talking about getting Prezi, and my job today was to give a presentation on Prezi. I am going to show you what happens when I open Prezi, and I'm going to walk you through step by step. Here is my screen. You can see my screen?
Yes.
Here is my screen. And in the screen here, I have this. This is my first slide, if you will. And I can build from that from pictures. So let's say we're going to talk about leadership. I'm going to put that in my first slide. Okay. But if I want to, I can remove the visual and I can import a slide that I've already made. I haven't made any slides, but if I had, I could do it in PowerPoint and then turn them into JPEG files, and then I could import all those as JPEG files. Now you see at the bottom here, I can turn this off and I can turn this on. That would turn off the presentation that you don't see right now. But I'm going to open a presentation that I've done before. So this is stored on my computer. So when you have an account, you can store your files on the website, which is the cloud, or you can store it on your computer. I store these in a special folder called Prezi Toastmasters. Here is a one I just created for a different club. They were having a webinar contest for EVVO. I do not want to save Untitled. But see, here is what I created for that. And you can see I went through that, and you can see here, you can see on the right here. Can you see on the right, this blue? And then I can pick this, then I can pick this. And if I want to change it, what I can do is very easily, if I want a different person for webinar, let's say, I can type in webinar like that, and I could get a different presentation. See how easy that is? And so it's very easy on the fly to do that. Now, this is one that I did, and I can change the templates right here. So this is one I like because I can be shown on here. You see, you have to kind of set yourself up because it takes half your screen. But if I went like this, this one takes half the screen. This one is really kind of, it still takes half my screen because of the picture, and then it's down there. Some of them will take almost the whole screen. But if I chose this button right here, see this button right here? It says full mode. And you'll see that I disappear when we go to full mode. See that? Now when I press this one back here, and then I reappeared. So I go to full mode and it looks like a slide. And then now I can be a part of that, and I can change different backgrounds and different things. Okay. So I can choose my templates. I can choose different things. And this is one that I have. I can open one that I made a while ago. Actually, I had this one from a year ago. And this is a fitness group. Now you see, it's not coming through very well. It has me on there. So there's like things that I have to do for it. But that is my tech tips right there. Let me close this. And I have there's challenges when you change your camera, when you go from, when I start in Prezi and then I go to open Zoom, I have challenges with my camera. When I'm in Prezi and then I close Prezi, you see that it shuts off my video onto Zoom. So some of those are some of the quirks you would need to work out, but there's just different challenges. What I find is really good is if I have my Zoom open and then I open Prezi, then that's the best. And so I wait till I do my entire presentation in Prezi, and then I end it. And then once I close it, it turns me off, so I'm no longer speaking. So there's some parts that you have to work out with your specific camera. I know that Prezi asked me to say that privacy mode on my camera, that Prezi has the privacy that has allowed to use my camera. That is clicked, but I still have some quirky issues. But there's a lot more in there. There's presentations like the one I gave you, which is much more like a slide and interactive and different movies. And I have about 5 or 6 of those, and they get pretty complicated. So I just wanted to show you the one where you could easily make the list, and then you can go from slide to slide, and it'll all show up on your right, all the points. And you can use pictures, and it's very, very easy to use on the fly. Is anyone timing me, and does anyone have questions? I should have 3 to 5 minutes.
I have a
done?
question, Pamela,
Sure.
if we have time. Can you resize the area where the photo is coming up? You can't resize that at all?
Can I resize the photo that was coming up? The one that I selected?
Yes.
Yes.
So what that is, when I had Prezi open, I had a choice where to choose it from. I could choose one of their graphics, I could choose my own picture, or I could go to one of the free photography picture ones, and I use Unsplash. So those pictures came from Unsplash. So when you would pull your own up, I don't know what it would be if you had a smaller file, if it would take up less space. But some of those ones that look professional, those are coming from Unsplash. So you could make it smaller and to the right. But as you can see, I have I have to keep moving myself depending on which screen is, because the words don't take up, the words probably take up a quarter of my screen, and those pictures take up a half, right? So there's a sizing thing too. But when it comes to there's one that are slides, and your face doesn't really show through on the slides. And then there's a movie that connects the dots. And I'll give a presentation on that when next week or something like that, but it's a little bit more involved. This one is a really nice, easy way to get started, and I use it on the free. And I know there's even more functionality when we purchase the account. Anyone else have any questions?
I have lots, but we're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you, Pamela, for sharing with us that amazing tip. That was awesome. Thanks again. I'd like to invite the team to explain briefly their roles. And the first person, she has a double role today. Angela, she's the accountant and grammarian today. Angela, welcome.
Okay, everybody, I am going to listen to everything you say. And at the end of the meeting, I will report back how many ums and ums you have committed. And I will share any fun grammarian speech that I hear. Back to you, Carolina.
Thank you, Angela. Another double role, watcher and vote counter. Andre, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster of the day. Andre, and my role is really easy. Double. First, I'm going to count all the votes that you will be sending to me using sophisticated software developed by David Carr, and it's about counting the votes. So after the speakers finish their presentations, and I will post the link in the chat. Please click on that link and cast your votes for the best speaker, evaluator, and so on. And the other part of my job is watcher. So I will be watching you, unique for this club, and I'll report back at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Andre. And our chat monitor today is Rick.
Thank you. As chat monitor, I'll be watching what takes place in chat. And in particular, I'm going to be watching for people chatting while other people are speaking. That's really kind of a bad habit. But what I'm looking for really is the fun stuff, the things that will be interesting to report at the end of the meeting. Back to you.
Thank you, Rick. The timer today is Andy. Andy, can you explain your role for us?
Yes,
To us.
Toastmasters is an organization that really tries to help people with their time management. Every segment of our 3 segments of the meeting are timed to give you a sense of what you're doing and what time frame you have. You'll be given cues such as a green when you've hit your minimum amount of time, a yellow when you're midway, and red when you've hit the end. Now, different speeches have different timing requirements. Our first speaker, Graham, has an intro that breaks down to 2 minutes, 2.5 for yellow, 3 at red, and then goes into his podcast, which is for 8 minutes, and then he goes into a post mortem with 2 minutes, 2.25, 2.5, and 3. And we'll see how that goes when Graham does his speech.
Thank you very much, Andy. It's time to start with the prepared speeches, my favorite part of the meeting. The first speaker is working in the presentation mastery level 4 project building skills, create a podcast. Creating the Stand and Deliver podcast. Graham Kearns has recently retired from his day job as a radio journalist and presenter, but is continuing with his other roles as a professional speaker and communication trainer. He has recently created a short podcast series as a free sampler of his training sessions and will today explain how and why. Welcome, Graham Kearns.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. In fact, we're all Toastmasters here, so everyone. First up, let me define a podcast. What is a podcast? We have all heard of podcasts. You may not know where the word comes from. It's actually a portmanteau, a combination word of broadcast, which is what I've done for 40 years, and iPods. That is the first music players that were all digital. They combined those two, the pod from iPod and the cast from broadcast, to be podcast. That is, they are broadcasts that were self-contained and could be downloaded and played on your iPod, or these days, virtually any device. So that's what a podcast is. Now, there are a million different types of podcasts. There are podcasts all about unsolved crimes, murderinos as they're known. There are podcasts that are about comedy. There are podcasts about public speaking. There once was a podcast which was called Rear View Microphone, which ran for 30 minutes and contained information on cruising and other travel and media and entertainment and arts and books, and it was a disaster, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. This is not my first rodeo at doing podcasts. So I created, my first podcast was called Rear View Microphone. It was a 30-minute blancmange of all of this stuff, and quite frankly, nobody wanted to listen to it because it was too many things. I was trying to do all things for all people, and it just didn't work. And so I have redefined what I am doing with podcasts. The first thing that I have done in this series is I have created a series of 10 short podcasts which are designed to teach a specific skill in public speaking. That's all they're going to do. Now, these are, if you like, a free sampler of the training services which I offer through Cairns Communications. And I created a podcast to explain just some of the tips. If you like, this is a taster of what you would get. The podcast is called Stand and Deliver because I thought that was a great name. I don't know whether stand and deliver is a phrase that reverberates in all cultures, but certainly in Australia, it's what the bushrangers used to say. They'd bail you up as you were riding your stagecoach through the Australian bush, and they'd say, stand and deliver, get out of your stagecoach and hand over all your money. Well, I thought it was a pun, so that's why I called it Stand and Deliver. What I'm going to do now is share you just one episode of this podcast, and then afterwards I'll talk a little about the process of what's involved. Now, I'm hoping that this is going to work. I'm going to share my screen. You can now all see my Stand and Deliver podcast, I hope. I'm now going to play just one episode. I will play episode 4, because that's only 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So here we go. G'day and welcome to Stand and Deliver. This is a short course in public speaking designed to help make you a better, more confident speaker in just 2 months. I'm Graham Cairns, the owner of Cairns Communications. I'm an award-winning public speaker who's taught public speaking and communication skills for decades. I've trained people at universities and government departments, in private companies and private citizens. And over the next 10 podcasts, I've distilled my top 10 tips to help you stand and deliver. At the end of each podcast, you'll be able to put into practice the tips we talk about. So get ready to stand and deliver. Tip 4. Public speaking is not about you. Why am I doing this? What am I doing? What am I supposed to say? Oh, good grief, what possessed me to say yes? The answers, in fact, are in the questions themselves. When you are speaking in public, the first question, why am I doing this, is the one that should be the key. You're speaking to a group of people, true, but why? Is your purpose to inform them, to entertain them, to persuade them, to inspire them? You need to fix that purpose in your mind as you decide what to say. We'll look at how to say it soon, but the most important question is why you are doing this. Let's consider one of the most common reasons for new speakers to make a presentation, the social occasion. Let's assume you've been asked to say a few words at your son's wedding. What's the purpose of your speech at your son's wedding? It is, in most cases, to wish the young couple well as they begin their new life together. You offer some gentle advice, usually couched in terms of your own experience. You help your son's family and friends bond with his partner's family and friends by telling some humorous anecdotes from his early years, and you help those who are there to celebrate join in the celebration. Notice the one constant? The speech is not for you, it's for your audience. The same is true of a presentation to inform. It's not about how eloquent you are, it's about them learning something. In future podcasts, we'll look at the specifics, but for today, the most important thing I can say to you is that public speaking is not about the speaker, it's about the public. So fix that purpose first and foremost, and you'll be less nervous because, well, it's not about you, is it? Now, you can go ahead and download Stand and Deliver's Tip 5 straight away if you like, but you might like to put into practice the tip we've just talked about. Why not practice making a speech for a life event? Imagine it's your best friend's birthday and you want to say something at their birthday party. But remember, it's all about them, not about you. So give it a go. Meantime, I'll look forward to chatting again next time. I'm Graham Cairns from Cairns Communications, and this is Stand and Deliver. All right, well, don't need the rest of the theme, which only goes for another few seconds. So that is episode 4 of Stand and Deliver. Did it work? Is it working? We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's talk first about technical equipment. What do you need to create a podcast? Well, first you need a microphone, well, duh, and a way of recording, and you need something to say. That would also be useful. The particular microphone that I use is, you don't really require all of the Christmas paraphernalia, which is around this particular one. I use a blue microphone. This is a Yeti Blue. It's a really nice microphone. The reason that I use this particular one is that it's great for doing interviews because it has different setups for the microphone. You have a microphone where just you can be heard. You can also set it up so that it can record in stereo. It can record an entire room, or really importantly, it can record an interview, so just one side and the other. So you need a decent microphone. You need a computer to record it. In my case, I don't have a soundproof room, but I bought some from eBay, some soundproof baffling, and I have surrounded my microphone with that. So that's the equipment that you need. You also need something to say, because content is king with podcasts. There is no point in creating a podcast unless you have something worth saying. But as I say, the first podcast I did, I tried to put too much into it and it just didn't work. you need somewhere to host it. In my case, I'm hosting at anchor.fm. Now, anchor.fm is a hosting and a podcast service which is run by Spotify. We all know of Spotify, of course. There is a free version of Spotify. There is a paid version of Spotify. Anchor FM is a free podcast hosting service. It's quite easy to use, and it allows you to host as many podcasts as you like. So it's worth investigating. Has this particular one worked? Well, I got to say, I haven't been particularly successful in promoting this podcast. I created it primarily for this project rather than as a way of promoting my business, but that's down the track. I intend to actually actively promote this podcast. Hopefully people will come to it. They will listen to it. They will say, hey, there's some really good advice in those. Now, I wonder if Graham's got more advice that he can give me that might be worth my paying money for him to teach me these skills. Whether it will work, we will find out. But that is stand and deliver. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Graham. I loved your podcast, very useful tips and great music. The second speaker tonight, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are, she's working in the path mastering, engaging with humor. Level 1, mastering fundamentals, evaluation and feedback, the second speech. Her main objective is to apply the feedback she received in her first speech. Title of the speech, My Journey as a Professor. Welcome, Lieceng Su.
My journey as a professor, you can imagine, is not as smooth, mainly because of the language barriers. But hey, in speaking of the language barrier, when I just joined my university as a faculty, I actually thought my English was great. Otherwise, why a teaching intensive university offered me a tenure track position to instruct their students? And with that level of confidence, when a Toastmaster asked me to join their club, I told him, no, because I'm busy. But I suggest him to contact my husband to get her involved in the club because her English was really, really poor. You heard me correctly. I mentioned my husband as her. As a matter of fact, my husband is a man. But why her? Really, I couldn't help. That's just one of the many mistakes I have made in speaking English. I know what you are thinking. You say, hey, he, she, her is just as easy as anything for anybody can do. I know, I agree with you. It's easy for you. Just like what my student told me when I told them a process of solving a problem is easy. They would say, oh, yeah, of course, it's easy for you. Sometimes I just wondering why English is so complicated. Why we have to have 5 personal pronouns to represent just one single individual? Why not like Chinese? We only have one single sound, ta, represent all 5 of them. A gentleman ta, a lady ta, a dog still ta, a trans female ta, trans male ta, for someone who is gender fluid still ta. See, ta is universal, is non-discriminative, and represent equality. I would strongly suggest that we replace all those 5 pronouns with ta in English. That way, I will no longer need to worry about to offend anyone, especially my students, with my mistakes in he and she. Also confusing in English, we use long vowel word versus short vowel word. like sheet versus sheet. And I used to give my student a worksheet to complete and turn it back in. And I often ask them, hey, please take this sheet and give me that sheet. Before I even know there's a word sheet exists in English. As a professor, I tried my best to be positive and be encouraging when I speak to my students, because I know that my words impact their mind and hearts. But it's not as easy all the time because, hey, English is not my first language. I constantly struggle for words. Once upon a time, I give my student a math test. A question like this: how much is 10% times 10%? Some students 1%, some say 10%, and others they say 25%. I was so appalled. And without thinking, the words already flew out of my mouth. How come you got 25%? You guys are so. And I stopped in the mid-sentence, realizing if I spoke that word out loud, I am going to get into deep trouble. But I caught myself, and my mind took a dramatic turn and desperately looking for another word that is friendly, encouraging, and positive. A word that saved my career and my face. But where is that word? I felt the pressure, stress, anxiety, and I prayed. And my prayer was answered because one beautiful word flew out of my mouth gracefully like a butterfly. Creative. You see, I struggled, but I survived and thrived. And look at this, my 5 years assessment exceed expectation in all aspects of teaching, research, and service. It's no big deal. It's just a piece of sheet. Oh no, I meant sheet. The point is, my student and I, we have a lot of fun along the way, and we laughed, and we laughed our head off at me. But hey, I don't care, because as the saying goes, if you can make them laugh, you can make them listen. If I have to make my students laugh in order to make them listen to me, and in order for me to help them to achieve their goal in life, and I don't care they laugh at me. I don't care anyone laugh at me. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Lieceng. Thanks for sharing your journey as a professor. Our third and last speaker is working in the Visionary Communication Path, level 5, project demonstrating expertise. Develop your vision first speech. Her main objective is to develop a detailed vision for her personal life, professional life, or an organization. Title: My Business Development Plan for ANCP. Welcome, Tricia Smith.
Hello, Toastmasters. Thank you so much. I am going to talk about something I'm very passionate about and give my story about what I call my business, more of a hobby. It still is a hobby. I'm trying to develop it into more of a business. So let me get started. I could easily do this without my slideshow. Sorry. Here we go. Can everybody see my screen? Thank you.
Yes.
ANCP, what does that stand for? All Natural Care Pantry. I've done other speeches about my business, communication. This is more in line with my vision. I started my hobby business back in 1993. This is a picture of my original business card. The right side is just a little sketch. I like seashells, butterflies, flowers. I was trying to incorporate that. So that's what you see on the right side. On this slide, I included a little picture that my niece drew that has the butterfly, seashells, flower combination. That's not one that's necessarily advertised on my card, but it goes along with my passion. So what is All Natural Care Pantry? This idea stemmed from living on a farm, growing up on a farm, being a mom at the time with gardens and flowers and being able to grow herbs and spices, using them in my daily life, which I continue today. And I'll get to my story in a moment. All Natural Care Pantry provides wholesale and retail products. Originally, it was more retail. I dabbled with teas. I've been a tea lover for many years, most of my life, once I could drink tea. And herbs, spices, use them on a daily basis. Natural skincare products, personal care products, and I am an environmentalist, so I really advocate cleaning products, environmental cleaning products. I like the idea of DIY kits that has really grown since COVID. Gift baskets is how I originated. Now it's boxes and containers and bags, all occasions. The focus of what I'm talking about has to do with my vision. This is one speech of two speeches that pertain to my vision. So this is going to be focused on my vision and the story of my hobby business. So my vision. I'll get into the story later, but I focused on developing my business more within the next 5 to 7 years. You'll hear from my story that it has been a hobby business for many years. So my goal for the next 5 to 7 years is actually developing it more than just a hobby. So let me talk about that more. At one point, I did a website for 3 years that was discontinued. My focus is more on the teas, the herbs, the spices, and I'm getting into actually doing them from seed to product, which is exciting. That is part of my learning development. Now I need to develop more of my business part of the development. DIY gift baskets, boxes, containers, and then how to actually promote and market those things. I've done it more on a personal basis with friends, family, community, vendor shows, those kinds of events. I have done some in-person events. Online didn't really get to get developed. My interest is developing it more in terms of a website that's a membership website and providing educational information, webinars, professionals that speak, do workshops and DIY events online as well as in person. This is a picture of my current business card, so you can see the development after many years of what it's become here on this slide. So now let me talk about my story. As I mentioned, I've been doing this as a hobby business for a number of years. It began in 1993. It was a while ago, still a hobby. I catered more of these types of products and made them into, at the time, baskets and boxes, bags, and gave them as gifts, holidays, birthdays, occasions, donated to churches, donated for the community events. More than anything, it was more of a donation, more for fun, right? To promote the idea of quality, natural care, personal care products, and environmentalism. That was my soapbox. It still is. Jumping ahead to 2017, and sorry, I have a typo there, it's 2017. there was a little bit of a gap because it's always been a sideline hobby business because I'm a full-time educator, still am. My goal over many years, and especially the last few years, is to do more of what I want, less of what I have to. Have not achieved that goal yet. Only have 24 hours in a day. Time management is an issue when you work full-time and have other contracts. But this is my passion. I've done vendor shows, farm markets, community events. During COVID, that slowed down and stopped, and it's kind of restarted again. So I've been more involved with that. I've partnered with someone who does the seed to the plant, only they have different types of plants, and I'm going to be complementing what they do. So that's exciting. I've dabbled with how to make personal care products. I just need to incorporate that into the actual end results and be able to market those things and teach those things. So I need to be more of an expert with my craft. Of course, we know with a lot of research I've done and what's out there, there's a lot of online business. This great resignation time period we are in has created a lot of opportunity for online businesses. So there's a lot of competition, and big businesses have taken over small businesses. A lot of people do things nowadays more like I do, the hobby business, something to do, an interest group. So my dream is part of my vision to develop the teas, the herbs, the spices, the personal care products and cleaning products that I use on my own personal basis and that I've been teaching about in different respects, to market in different ways in person. I put my products in stores that are existing. I probably will never have my own brick and mortar store. That's okay. I want to develop more of the online platform and do membership website. So that's really exciting to me, but it takes more than one person to develop it. I've learned about affiliate marketing and a little bit of social media. I'm not an expert, so I need more help with that and more learning with that. Home parties, I've done those things. I did a lot of herbal parties in the past where I taught people about herbs and teas and had those things available. I do like the DIY kit idea, and you can cater to different people in different ages with different themes, and it's a learning experience. And they buy in more with the lifestyle concept, which is really my passion, to teach others healthy lifestyles. What's next? Speech 2, we'll get more into the details of the plans, the goals, the strategies. I've had this in process for quite some time, so I need to spend more time in developing it and promoting it and getting back into the online arena. So I've talked about my vision and my story and my plan for the next 5 to 7 years in general. Everything is in process, so there are things that I'm doing right now. I just need to do them on a bigger scale so that it can be developed and implemented more and more established and stable. That is what I have planned. That's my vision for my all natural care pantry gift basket business and gifts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tricia, for sharing with us your vision. And congratulations for your business, because I know how difficult it is to grow your business. You have to put a lot of effort. Andy, are all the speakers qualified before voting?
No.
Oh.
Graham met his qualifications. Lieceng met her qualification. Unfortunately, Trish went over.
Okay, thank you, Andy. You can send your vote to Andre. Time to speak for those who doesn't have a role. And Marianne Grady is the topic master today. Welcome, Marianne.
Well, thank you, everybody. So happy to be here this evening. Tonight, we're going to do table topics, which is extemporaneous speaking. And I will call upon some, no, I'm gonna volunteer everybody. So you don't really have a choice. I'm just gonna put the arm on you and pull you in. So the first bit of information I'd like to share with you today is about Ralph Smedley. The first, I guess, unofficial Toastmaster meeting was on March 24th, 1905. And it was very similar to how Toastmaster meetings were run today. They took turns speaking and evaluating. And the older people in the club who had more experience in business, along with Ralph Smedley, did the evaluations while the younger people did the speeches. So everybody learned, but this club did not flourish. Later, Ralph Smedley got a job with the YMCA, and he still had a big passion for helping others speak and lead. So in October 22nd, 1924, Club number 1, the official Club number 1 for Toastmasters International was started. So Calvin Dorsey, can you tell us in your best Ralph Smedley voice how you feel as you look at the organization today?
Hi, Marianne. I'm probably not the best person to ask that question because I've been in and out and I haven't been around a whole long. However, I'll do my best, and I'll just say that one of the best aspects of online presenters is the knowledge that the members have. When they make presentations, they're generally about something that's filled with content and interesting. For example, I enjoyed Graham Kearns' presentation this evening because as a consultant, I'm working with one of my clients about creating a podcast. And my strength, of course, is content and delivery and marketing it. And I have been doing an extensive amount of research on the technical aspects of it. Point number 1. Point number 2, I'm a health food enthusiast, and I enjoyed Tricia's presentation because I'm going to do business with her. And of course, Lieceng, she has gravitas. She stands out. She's very knowledgeable. She speaks excellent English, quite frankly, and I enjoy the way that she communicates. And overall, I just feel that the Online Presenters Toastmasters Club is well positioned to continue to grow because of the content, the camaraderie, and the excitement that's generated in the meetings. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Calvin. My next topic is, in 1973, President Richard Nixon met with Toastmaster International founder Ralph Smedley and praised Toastmaster for its efforts in promoting competent communication in, quote, our increasingly complex world. If you only knew, right? I'm going to ask Rick Durling, have you ever had an encounter with a famous person, and tell us about the interaction? And if you haven't met somebody famous, tell us who you'd like to meet.
One of my favorite quotes is actually from Abraham Lincoln. He is quoted, and I may not get it exactly right, as having said that leadership and learning are inseparable. It's my opinion that he is absolutely spot on correct. And further, I'll add to it that leadership and communication are truly inseparable. So investing in yourself, giving yourself the opportunity to learn how to communicate effectively can lead to many things in your life. Perhaps most important is you can actually express yourself, share with people your passion, what it is you want to accomplish. That, to me, is why leadership and communication are inseparable. And to me, that actually defines for me the whole idea that learning is a core part of that. There's no question that I learn every time I step into a Toastmasters meeting. I see things, hear things, learn things that I didn't know. So quite frankly, as cliche as it may very well be, yes, Abraham Lincoln is one of many people that I personally would very much like to meet and have a great conversation with. Back to you, Marianne.
Thank you so much, Rick. Next up, the core values of Toastmasters International are integrity, respect, service, and excellence. Angela Heath, can you tell us about your core values?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. My core values are so ingrained in me that this question just invites a quick and easy response. First of all, it's integrity. I believe that our word should be our bond and that we should do what we say we should do. I always tell my son, if I cannot believe what you say, I cannot believe you. Second is excellence. In everything I do, I try to do it as well as I possibly can. Now, that doesn't mean that everything I do is excellent, but it means that I put forth an excellent effort to make it as good as it can be, given the circumstances that I face at that time. Another core value of mine is faith. I believe that tremendous things are possible for all of us, not just for me. I believe that every human being is endowed with such gifts and talents and skills that often go unexplored. And so I have faith in myself that I can bring mine out. And I also have faith in myself that I can help you bring yours out. I have faith in you that you can do and become anything that you could truly see in your mind's eye. So these are some of my core values. I have a couple more, but for sake of time, I will return the mic over to our table topics master. Thank you.
And I can tell that you reflect all of those core values. Well done. All right, the ratio of women to men in Toastmasters is 52% women to 48% men. Toastmasters did not always welcome women. In 1970, Helen Blanchard wanted to join Naval R&D Toastmasters in San Diego. Club leadership decided to admit her, but they submitted her application with H. Blanchard so they can complete the paperwork. Toastmasters asked for a first name, and after that, the men did a table topics to find out what her name would be, and they called her Homer. I thought that was kind of funny. So she was Homer until 1973, when Toastmasters finally welcomed women into the organization. Helen Blanchard was also the first woman international president of Toastmasters. So Helen Blanchard was a trailblazer, even a hero to many. I'm going to ask my question to Mr. David Carr. David, Helen Blanchard was a trailblazer and even a hero. Who is someone that you admire or that you consider a hero, and tell us why?
Thank you for the question, Table Topics Mistress. Let's see. I mean, your intro was on the role of women, so why not a woman as a hero to be pointed out? And geez, I'm struggling with this a bit. I was thinking Abigail Adams, because she had that reputation of leading from behind, of being John Adams, and I'm speaking to an international audience, I should mention. Abigail Adams was the wife of John Adams, who was the second president of the United States, one of the founding fathers who was involved in drafting the Declaration of Independence. And she was an active participant in political life to the extent that it was allowed at that time. At the drafting of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution a few years later for the United States, the idea of allowing women the vote to be an active part of political life was just way too radical of an idea to even be considered. And of course, the United States had a number of other problems with disenfranchising people at that stage. Certainly the Black slaves being the most notable example. And so for Abigail Adams to accept the limitations, I suppose, is admirable and is necessary, is that she was going to have to work through her husband to try and get things steered in the right direction. She did try and advocate for at least some consideration of the rights of the wives and the daughters and the women in the country. And I'm sure that she is a very well-read and educated and intelligent person, that she was frustrated by those limitations, but she made the best of what she had within the context of her times. Madam Table Talks.
Thank you so much, David. And I have gotten word from our Toastmaster of the day that that was our final table topic. Timer, do all of our contestants qualify?
No, they do not. David,
Okay.
when
Can you put the times in the chat?
I can.
Thank you, sir. Back to you, Toastmaster Carolina.
Thank you, Marianne, for your great questions, and send your vote for your favorite speaker to Andre. Our general evaluator today is someone very brave. She took the role at the last minute. Welcome, Pamela Benjamin.
Thank you very much. Our first evaluator is David Carr, and he will be evaluating Graham Carr's Cairns podcast speech. David?
Thank you, General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and it's great that we have a couple of guests with us today. So I'll try and be on my best behavior. Graham, I don't know how often or how clearly I have expressed my admiration for you, but I do definitely admire you as a professional and as somebody who I would like to be as articulate as Graham someday. I know it's not going to happen, but I'm working on it. And so it is reassuring in some sense that you tried to do a podcast and that you made, I think, what we would call a classic mistake, is trying to cram too many things into it, trying to be all things to all people. But you showed us today that you had learned from that experience, because the actual podcast clip that you played for us was very focused and was just trying to tackle a couple of things in the span of that episode and then hint at the greater things to come, the bigger things that were to come in future episodes, which of course is, you want to tease them in, you want to keep them coming back. You did a good job in terms of framing for us what it takes to put together a program like this, starting with defining the term, where did podcast come from? And giving us a little bit of information about the technology involved. You need a good microphone, you need a computer, you don't need too much more than that. And so focusing more on the content than on the technology, which I think was a good balance for the most part. You mentioned a few specific tools and technologies, the microphone of choice, the Anchor FM as a free platform on which to publish these things. The one thing that I thought maybe could have used a little bit more explanation there was the idea of editing the audio. And you posted something in the chat about Audacity. And I understand that it wouldn't be practical to give a full Audacity lesson, but maybe just introducing the idea of that intro and the outro, of having a standardized opening that has a little bit of music to go with it, and an outro clip to close it, explaining those conceptually, I think might have made sense. And maybe you put Audacity up on the screen for just a few seconds to say, look, you can cut and paste and trim, and you can have multiple tracks, you can have music, you can have audio. This is a free and simple tool. I don't have time to tell you all about it today, but you can learn about that other places. I want to tell you that this is something that you really need to focus on what you're trying to accomplish and what you're going to say. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, David. Our next evaluator is Jim Barber. He will be evaluating Lieceng on her journey as professor.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, my fellow Toastmasters, and especially Lieceng Su. Lieceng, this presentation was from the engaging humor path, which in my opinion, my personal opinion, this is the most challenging of all of the paths. You not only have to be an excellent presenter, but that's only one of your goals. You also have to be funny. And that is a challenge because you've really got two things that you're working on. Congratulations, you nailed them both. Let me talk about the presentation aspects of what you were doing. This was terrific. Your vocal variety, the way you presented yourself was excellent. Your video framing was fine. What it was superb were your gestures and your body language. That was so good. I just pulled up one of them here. You were animated. You were congruent with what you were saying. You communicated to us not just verbally, but through your very gestures. And that was wonderful. That was so well done. Then we also had the humor part of it. Your subject matter, brilliant choice. The vagaries and the eccentricities of the English language. That's something that everybody can relate to. Even native English speakers recognize what a bizarre language English is. And it's such a fertile field of imagination, of creativity for you to mine, to go after humor, for you to go after the English language. That was just so well done. Earlier today, I was reading an article by Tricia, a Toastmaster, who was talking about the importance of timing your presentation in humor. And I was thinking about that as I was watching you talk, because your sense of timing is amazing. Too often people rush through the humor. They don't give people a chance to stop and think about what you're saying, or to anticipate what you're saying, or something like that. They're scared of pausing, and you don't have that fear. Your timing was terrific, and I love the way that you did that. There were just so many things that I was impressed of. I was especially impressed. The thing that I really liked was your theme of that it's okay. There's a big difference between having a sheet of paper and giving a sheet of paper. I just love that, and I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time to come. I don't have any particular suggestions for you. The only thing I can tell you is practice, 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 because every time you do it, you're going to get better, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to evolve out of this. Good job tonight. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you very much. And our next evaluator is Marty Sandler, and he will be evaluating Trish Smith and her project, her all-natural pantry business.
Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, this is a true delight for me. I've been a Toastmaster now since about 1972 or 3. And I always find it very interesting what we mean by evaluation. frankly, I consider it a matter of coaching. What can I tell this Toastmaster that will help him or her do better at whatever it is they were talking about? And I found it very hard to find much to offer Tricia on this very clear and very wonderful speech. Partly because I like food. The food pictures behind her have my appetite going. But here's my point. I felt that what Tricia did was in effect to give us a story of how she got to where she is, what she's doing, why she's doing it, how she started doing it, etc. and so forth. And I was delighted to hear it. I thought her manner was excellent. The information she gave us about herself and about her subject were both excellent. And I just don't know what I can say except keep going, because you're really doing beautifully, Tricia. Enjoy, and if you know any recipes for Chinese style cooking that you'd like to send me, I'd appreciate it, because that's one of my hobbies. Okay, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Marty.
I've lost track who it was. Okay, take it
Thank you,
away.
Marty.
Folks.
And now I'd like to hear from our grammarian.
Tonight, because we are an advanced level club, we did excellent. Had a very difficult time finding anything to say. I will put some individual comments in chat, but there were a couple words that I really enjoyed. Jim used the term vagary. I don't even know what that means. So now I have to go to look it up. Thank you, Jim Barber. I wanted to go to sleep after this. But I did love that. And then he said, the bizarre verbal field of imagination. I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. Now, Graham, he did a really good job. He told me where podcasts came from. I had no idea. I never even thought to think about where did a podcast come from. I appreciate that. He also used the term, which I thought was kind of funny, rear view microphone. It makes no sense. I just thought it was funny. But in terms of any other things that we may want to work on, this is Odd Counter and Grammarian put together. We did have a number of ahs from quite a few people, and some of you had more than one, but you did really good with that. The only other thing in general is I heard a couple double words for us all. And I would recommend that we pay attention to our double words. Those filler words are unimportant. But back to you, General Evaluator. We did excellent tonight.
Thank you, Angela. Our watcher this evening. Who was our watcher? Our double duty watcher? Okay, Andre.
Yes, well, thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I've been your watcher for this evening. Oh, what a busy, watchful life I had. We all have very different backgrounds. And so it was really interesting to see everyone behaving in their more or less relaxed way. At the same time, I would like to make a suggestion, perhaps, to try to make our virtual backgrounds in a theme with the meeting. I think that's just a little effort would bring more spark and more relevance to the meeting with our virtual backgrounds. And overall, as an advanced club, it's just been really easy life for me. I enjoyed it, and with that recommendation in mind, virtual backgrounds, I pass it back on to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you very much. And our odd counter, back to Angela.
Again, I kind of mixed the two together. We did pretty good. There are a couple people who I'm going to put something in private chat, but generally speaking, there were not as many ums and ums. We did pretty good tonight. Thanks.
Our chat monitor.
Not a lot to report today. I did see one thing that I thought was interesting. Don't volunteer. However, that puts you in a position where people can step back and all of a sudden you are the volunteer or you get voluntold. The other thing I would ask David to put the EVVCon link in the chat again, because it's quite a ways back now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now for my general evaluation portion of the meeting. I will say, starting off with the tech tips, I'm going to evaluate myself as if I were a different person. I would say that my goal, the tech tip goal, was to show what it was like to build a tech tip from the ground up. I wish it was a little bit more polished, but when I was working with different files, I knew that if I pulled too many things open, my screen would come to a halt. So my goal was to do that, and going forward, my goal would be to be more polished with the tech tips, but yet show behind the scenes. That's my goal. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be. With our speakers were incredible. Graham, you made it look easy. I don't know how you did it. David gave you accolades, but I'm going to have to give you some more. So just incredible. If you would have just spoken a little slower, just a little bit slower, but incredible. And I will say that Lieceng, I was laughing. I was laughing. You are so funny. You really understand English if you can make us all laugh. And then also to Trish. One thing about that your evaluator didn't say that there was a lot on your screen. And so sometimes there's so much on there because we want to give so much information, but it dilutes your message. So if we could cut down some of that on there, what I can tell is, because I tutor and I speak at 100 miles, maybe 200 miles a minute, and I'm just used to moving through the information. I can hear that in your voice. You're used to having a lot of information that you need to crunch through. But when you're talking to a group of people who are recreationally listening instead of academically listening, that you need to make it a little bit more even paced and not so scholarly. So I would say that maybe 50% of the content, or just go at a leisurely pace. But I think you had incredible pictures, you had incredible information, and I just thought that. So I wanted to give that. On top of that, our table topics, Mary Ann did an incredible job. She gave so much depth to each question that I thought that she just really set up the people she asked the questions of wonderfully. I thought Calvin did a wonderful job with his speech. I was blown away that David chose Abigail Adams. She's one of my heroes. And she was a strong constitutionalist, and she was in her husband's ear. So there's a lot of things I liked about Abigail. So kudos for going back in history quite a bit, and Angela with her depth of the values of what it means to be a Toastmaster. So all in all, we had so much that was good and wonderful, and there's so many tips to grow on. And next time I make a podcast, I'm going to go sneak over to Graham's podcast and get some tips before I make mine and bring mine. So anyway, but back to you, our presiding officer of the evening, Andy Byrne.
Thank you very much, Pam, and thank everybody for doing what they do best at our club. And I have one error that I had made when we come on. Very often we keep our microphones or videos off. And even though on my screen I was showing the changes on the timing, I didn't realize until pointed out by Rick that I hadn't turned my video camera on so that all of you can see the timing changes. So I apologize for that. It's one of those little things you have to get used to. That's about it. We are at 8:59, which is our closing time. I do want to say that we had some guests, and I no longer see Toro from Tokyo on the line.
Andrew, before we move to the guests, perhaps we could announce the winners.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. We put all the winners in the chat. Best speaker, Graham Kearns. Best table topic speaker, Angela Heath. Best evaluator, Jim Barber. So congratulations to our club winners today. Excellent job.
Fantastic. At this point in time, I just wanted to point out that Toro is visiting again from Tokyo and that he has done the required visitations. During the next meeting, we will schedule him for a 2 to 3 minute speech of why he should be a member of our club. I don't think there's anybody with your resume that would think that you shouldn't belong to our club. I don't know if we can waive the required speech, but
Andy, we only require that speech if somebody doesn't have prior Toastmasters experience. I believe he does.
are you willing to vote him in tonight? He's been to this is your third meeting, right, Toro?
I told him in right now.
Okay, so
I'm
Marianne
ready to
Grady
do
is
that
one.
if you allow me to.
Yeah, Marianne Grady is the queen over here in charge of membership. So since you've met criteria, if you pass or David passes your email and to her, we are more than happy to take a moment to consider you, and David can send out an email to everybody. And next week when you come, we will have the process completed, and we will be very grateful to have you as a new member of our club.
Thank you very much. I'm ready to give 2 to 3 minutes speech if you allow me to do that in the next meeting.
Okay, as David said, it's not required for Toastmasters, but we'd love to hear a 2-minute speech from you. We would just take it and remove one of our table topics from the list and give you an opportunity to speak for that.
Thank you very much.
My
I'm
pleasure.
looking forward to participating in the next meeting. Thank you.
I just want to
Excuse
make
me.
it clear, Toro is a DTM and he is not required to give this speech because of his Toastmaster experience. But we do need to have a vote and we need to make sure we have quorum, which I'm not qualified to do tonight. So at the beginning of our first meeting, or our next meeting, we can vote and then it'll be official.
Yay.
Hey, thank you.
And I want to bring to everyone's attention that we are officially closing the meeting. It is 9:03. And if we can stop the recording, we can continue the conversation.